These are the definite no's, wheat, sugar, vegetable oil, processed food, packaged food. One of the important things for parents to understand is get rid of the gadgets while eating. Involving your child in movement, the investment of movement is equally important to the food and nutrition. The traditional foods are mixing petrol with kerosene. The kerosene over here, the useless fuel, is carbs. What does the brain need? Brain needs fat.
Functional medicine practitioner, biohacker, and a full-time dad, raising an informed and a healthy little human who, believe it or not, has already started biohacking at the age of 3.5. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Mr. Rahul Patil, who's going to be talking to us about kids' nutrition and a lot more. So, welcome, Mr. Rahul, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your personal health and wellness story and how has it been for you so far?
Hi, Sakshi. It's a great honor to come and talk on your show. You're doing an amazing job of spreading the right information around. I saw the list of speakers that you sent me, and I was very happy to see the list of speakers. That really speaks the quality of your thoughts and your will to spread the right information. So, congratulations for starting this great podcast story and initiative. That's great. So coming back to what I do and my story, well, I have been in this health and fitness industry since 1997, and it's been a long journey. That time it was quite raw when we started actually the fitness training. Uh, you would say in India, in Bombay, it was very raw. The gyms have just started. Commercial gyms had just started to actually come up, and there was only one gym actually, which was spread across, a few states or few cities. That was Talwalkar's. That was the only gym that time, and then few local gyms. And that time, the understanding about nutrition, health, food was very different. It was all about hard work, hard work, hard work, and whatever food is available, you take the food. Yeah, even if you're a non-veg eater, you'll probably eat non-veg on the weekends or on some special days. Uh, Slowly information was coming through the international magazines of whey protein and how our international athletes used to basically. So the education was happening through these magazines. There was no formal education, but luckily that time in 1998, I got to do diploma in sports nutrition, sports medicine uh, at Worli. That was my first introduction to formal structured education in fitness. But otherwise, just like any other fitness enthusiast, I was actually, just going to the gym and just training hard over there. So I started working out at the age of 16. That was my first introduction to gym training with weights. And then the journey started, and I started my own health club in 2002, which I ran for about 4 years. Then I again kept on growing, and finally I did my functional medicine in a few years back. The reason for doing functional medicine after so many years of practice was that I realized I was asking people to do the wrong things. So I was asking people to eat wrong food in the name of professional consulting. So I was doing mistakes in the way I was prescribing food and nutrition. I was doing mistakes in the way I was prescribing the supplements or the kind of food that people should be eating. And I realized it quite late in my career, but I have to admit that I did mistakes like so many other trainers who have been doing. And your generation is lucky that you have a lot of correct information right now, right in front of you. So you can start your careers with the right information. Whereas if you see the professionals who have started their careers at the few years back, like 15 years back, uh, they started with a lot of wrong information, mixed information. So your generation is very lucky. And I myself suffered some kind of metabolic issues and autoimmune conditions few years back. And luckily, I was doing functional medicine and I experimented on myself. I got away from the conventional way of healing, that is allopathic medications, modern medications, because I had developed a huge black patch on my face, and it was kind of increasing day by day. It had started as a small mole, but it had grown to a good 3 to 5 inches diameter. So my entire left side over here, from the end of my eye till the beginning of my ear, I had a huge circular patch, which kind of increased within a year's time. And I was wondering what it is. So I went to different doctors. Some doctors told me it is because of stress. Some doctors told me it is lichen planus, a skin autoimmune condition. Some other doctors told me it is psoriasis. But I kept questioning back to the system. So it's important that if a doctor tells you that you have a certain disease, it's important that you question back the system, you question back the professional. Luckily, I was doing functional medicine, so I had an open mind about the system. I didn't have any fear inside me. And I asked the questions back to the system. I did my own research. I was studying functional medicine, so I got my answers through that. One of the root causes of the back patch which was developing was a chronic stress that my body was handling. So what was that chronic stress? That chronic stress was silver fillings in my teeth. So about 20 years back, if you understand how the dentist work, is that if they find a tooth is decaying, so what they do is they do a root canal and they fill it up. So earlier, I don't know if the practice is still present, but they fill it up with silver, and silver is always mixed with mercury. So the silver is always mixed with mercury. So and then it is pressed inside the teeth, and then it hardens over a period of time, or they have a process of doing it. But that mercury keeps on sipping through your, or keeps on absorbing through your nerve network that is present below the teeth, and it keeps on spreading in your body. And mercury is basically, we all know, mercury is poisonous for us. So that was kind of slow poisoning for my system for these 20 years that I had the silver filling, and it kept on poisoning my tissues, and finally my body gave up and this black patch developed over here. But you know, just imagine if I would have gone through the conventional way of medicine and agreed to the doctors that yes, I have psoriasis or lichen planus, taken steroids, taken SSRI drugs, that are serotonin uptake inhibitors, psychological drugs. What would have happened to me? I would have gone into that rabbit hole and destroyed my health further. So the only reason that I could stay away from it was that I was fearless. I asked the questions to the system. I did my own research. I studied functional medicine. I studied what my symptoms are. I was not afraid to take decisions. So what did was I first took the silver fillings out of my tooth and replaced it with composite material. And you won't believe, within 3 to 4 weeks, my patch started disappearing. So the connection was very clear that it was connected with the silver filling that was present in my tooth. Yes, I tried Ayurvedic treatment, I tried homeopathic treatment simultaneously, I changed my diet, I did whatever things were essential, but the greatest impact was right after I removed the silver filling from my tooth. So this is kind of my story, one of the stories. But I also realized during this process that I also was metabolically unhealthy and I was a diabetic, though I used to work out and though I was muscular. See, the conventional belief is that if you're muscular, you're metabolically healthy and you won't experience diabetes. But I was experiencing diabetes. So if I see my earlier lab tests, it clearly shows that I am a diabetic. So I worked on that. I changed my entire belief system about nutrition. And from functional medicine, I kept on narrowing my window about nutrition. And finally, I came down to working majoritarily with carnivore diet. Yeah. And during this period, I also got the best gift from my wife, that is Raghuveer. So the moment my wife conceived, my mind was already working on his nutrition program, what we would do the first year, what I would do the second year, what I would do the third year. So my nutrition planning for my child started right from the day the announcement was done that my wife is conceived, the information that I got. And from that point onwards, my priorities have always been around what food he should be eating. Okay, first year we focus on breast milk. What would be how we would transition from breast milk to other foods? So my brain was to always work. Then it's all about educating your family about why you should be doing it, because not everyone is convinced about traditional ways. So, so I would just stop here, take a pause, because I kind of started with my story, and now Raghuveer's story has begun. So probably you would like to, ask me a few other things or want to deviate the subject somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah.
So actually, we were just gonna focus completely on Raghuveer and whatever you're doing in terms of nutrition, right? But the story you just talked about is very interesting, about how you came to a realization about your oral health affecting your health in that kind of a way, right? So, but how were you able to identify this particular thing? Like, was it through a doctor, or were there some other observations that you were making in your body, in your lifestyle, and how did you sort of come to this realization? Because I'm sure there are a lot of other people who might also, have such underlying things or conditions, and they might not even know about.
So it's a continuous thought process of improving yourself. That is number one thing. So lot of things, lot of times, what happens with doctors is that, for example, that's the prime thing that we should be thinking about is doctors, once they get their final degree and they get busy in their practice, they don't have enough time to again expand on their knowledge. And what happens is they get stagnated over there and they keep on prescribing medications just to manage the diseases. And that's where it's not that the doctors are not willing to gain more knowledge, it's just that they get so busy with their practice that they don't get enough time. But on the other side, the doctor should also put an effort to know what is the latest thing, or also realize that whatever treatments they're giving to their patients, it is not helping them cure. It's all what they're doing is basically help their patients manage their symptoms. So managing the symptoms is not helping the person to cure at all. So I don't know if you've heard of Gary Fechte. Gary Fechte is a doctor in Australia. He's a low carb promoter. His personal story is there's something to learn from his story. He is an orthopedic surgeon, and he found out through his experience that he didn't want to basically prescribe uh, operative procedures to his patients without prescribing nutritional changes. And he saw in his practice that moment he prescribed nutrition to the patients for 6 months, the same patient never required a hip replacement or a knee replacement, because the inflammation went down, they lost weight, and their metabolic health improved. So they no longer needed to go through a knee replacement or a hip replacement just by changing nutrition. And he was basically sued by the Australian Medical Association, and his license was taken away from him to practice medicine. And of course, the story is that he fought back, and he won it, and now Gary Fechte is like a world-renowned name. So he realized his mistake, that he was not doing enough as a doctor to heal his patients. And I think every doctor should realize this, that whatever prescriptions they are doing to their patients, it's just helping them manage the symptoms. It's not helping them cure. So once that inner light, inner questioning arises, the questioning is very important. You will try and find the right path. You know, that is important. That's what I have done continuously in my 24, 25 years of career. I have always tried to improvise on what I knew. I don't like stagnation. So even now, if you ask me what I do, I spend a lot of time on a daily basis to gather new information, to listen to people who interest me, because your journey to learn is never over. It's a continuous process. We all are students of life, and that realization should never go away from anyone. And so this continuous process of learning and accepting mistakes, that I am wrong. I was wrong half of my career, telling people the wrong things. Eat six meals, eat 6 meals, eat meals, eat 8 meals, do carb loading, take a lot of processed protein. So I have done those mistakes, but I realized and I accepted and I changed. That's what everyone needs to do. So asking questions continuously, making an effort to learn, and admitting your mistakes. I mean, that's the basic thing that everyone needs to do all the time.
Absolutely. That was really well explained. And just because you touched on the topic of doctors, I just read in a book by Tony Robbins. The book is called Life Force, in which he mentions this, this statistic that a Harvard study recently, published about what doctors learn in their degree, kind of like some percentage of it after within few months, like 6 to 7 months, it needs to be updated with the new researches. And I'll make sure to put that in the video so everyone can see it. But yeah, that was a great highlight. And also going from misdiagnosis with multiple doctors to coming to a realization and being more intuitive about yourself, and also being data driven also by yourself, right? Like that's what biohacking is all about. We have so many of these tools available today that we can use, we can utilize, and be intuitive, and actually learn from the signs our body gives us, because our body never lies. So that's a great learning from your story. Thank you for sharing that with us. And jumping right into our topic for today, that is kids nutrition, and the amazing job you're doing in creating this beautiful belief system with your son. Just let's just dive right into that. And like you said, that you already had a plan going on in your mind for your son, right? Like for the first few years of how you would sort of approach his nutrition and all of his lifestyle, right? So can you just tell us a little bit about that, a little insight on how was that like, and what did you learn along the way?
Oh, there are a lot of learnings. I mean, learnings are there every day. So, first year it was all clear that all that we are going to focus is on giving him the breast milk. But the challenge happens after a year or after a year and a half when you're trying to transition from breast milk to some solid food. So by that time, my belief systems and my understanding about nutrition was pretty clear, and I was absolutely clear that I was never going to give any traditional ways of mixing grains or vegetables and vegetable broth to my child, because we know it is absolutely useless as far as the growth is concerned for a child. Uh, what the baby needs for growth. If you understand these basics, then it will be very clear for you to what is basically what you're supposed to feed your child. What happens is people believe in the traditional stuff. I mean, traditions are good because they are not bad, but they are not optimal, or they are not optimal for creating a kind of a child that you want your child to become. You want your child to become the healthiest child. You want your child to become the most intelligent, smart, playful, active, naughty, whatever. So what is behind all these things? Behind all these things, the main central processing unit, that is our brain. What does the brain need? Brain needs fat. Brain needs DHA. Yeah. So essential fatty acids are the key for growth of the brain. So what is happening to a baby? The the brain is growing at a really fast rate for every child, right from the time of conception till a certain time that we grow, 18 years, 21 years, till the brain is kind of expanding, expanding, expanding. So the kind of nutrition it needs, mainly it needs is DHA and EPA, the fatty acids. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the fish, the seafood, right? But let's say if I'm a vegetarian, what kind of choices do I have to provide that kind of nutrition for my child's growth? Genetically, your child will have some kind of intelligence, some kind of smartness, some kind of physical activity, but you are still not reaching the the optimal level or the genetic potential. We are not reaching the genetic potential. And why we are not reaching the genetic potential? Because we are not providing the kind of nutrition our body needs uh, to basically, what do you say, there is epigenetics and genetics to basically let the genes express themselves to the fullest. So, what are the epigenetics? Epigenetics is the environment that we provide to our genes. So, genetically, we all are intelligent, we are all smart, but how will the genes express themselves to the fullest? They will only express themselves to the fullest if they get the epigenetics, that is the kind of nutrition what we are built for. So like for a petrol car, for example, if you are not going to fill petrol, then it's not going to run. You will say कि diesel सस्ता है. अभी आज के तारीख में diesel भी सस्ता नहीं है. But you will say कि I'll mix petrol with kerosene and try and run the car. The car will run for some time, but it will break down after a few kilometers. The engine will just fail to run. So we need to understand that traditionally, the traditional foods are mixing petrol with kerosene just for survival. So we are not pushing in the pure energy, pure fuel in our bodies. We are mixing uh, petrol with kerosene. So we are mixing proteins with a lot of carbs. The kerosene over here, the useless fuel, is carbs. So again, let's not demonize carbs. Okay, I always tell people, let's not demonize carbs. Nature doesn't make anything that is useless, but it completely depends on us how much to use out of it. So there is a saying in the medical field: a dose makes poison. So, for example, if you have fever and you take a crocin, so one crocin is just enough to pull the fever down. But if you take 10 crocins because you want to pull the fever down fast, the same medicine will become poison, and you'll probably you have some loose motions. Your kidneys will fail, blood pressure will go up, whatever. So a dose makes the poison. So all carbs are not bad. What is bad from carbs? The processed carbs are bad. Grains are definitely bad because grains are not made for human consumption. So we have to understand humans are intelligent, so they developed ways to break down the grains, process them or grind them, and then convert it to digestible energy. So if you just apply your logic, you cannot eat grains directly because they are not your body is not made to break it down. So you kind of grind it, you make a flour out of it, then you mix a lot of stuff in that, then you cook it, and then finally after this long process, it is kind of uh, made to be digestible by your system. So it takes a long process. Grains are made for birds. Birds can go and eat them directly. Grains are made for cows. They can go and eat them directly. And they have a different biological system. The digestive system is different to break down those grains, right? But humans are not made to basically consume grains. Our biological system is not made for it. So we take the grains through a certain process to make it digestible, but yet it is not going to it's not the kind of fuel that we're looking at. It is still kerosene. So it may give you an energy for a certain period of time. And because we have a long life, 80, 90, 100 years, which is now becoming shorter and shorter with a lot of problems, what happens is we keep on taking this kerosene since the time we are born through pediatric formulas. We keep on taking it. It keeps on poisoning us every day, every meal, slowly, slowly. And by the time we are in our 20s, 30s, 40s, it keeps on showing us different symptoms. Now, the problem is we are not taught to recognize these symptoms, neither in our schooling system, neither in our traditions, neither in our college, neither in the medical system, that if you are showing these symptoms, that means you should be changing your nutrition. So, for example, let's take a fat kid. Oh, so chubby, so nice. Wow, this kid looks so cute. And then people will go and pull the cheeks and oh, your kid is so cute and chubby and nice and roly poly. Oh, look at his stomach and look at his cheeks. And people get really happy looking at chubby kids. But that is a visible symptom. That's a visible sign that this child is metabolically unhealthy. There's nothing cute about it. Nothing cute about it. So you got to change the nutrition. You got to eliminate the carbs in such a child. You got to focus on bioavailable proteins and fat, and look at the magic in 6 months. This child will be a different child. He will be more energetic. He will be more focused. He will be calmer. He'll sleep on time. The child will completely change. He won't be lethargic and watching TV in front of it. So he'll like wanting to do something, lot of things. So as a population, Right from schooling time, the education system, we are never taught to recognize obesity as a sign of diabetes and metabolic dysfunction. So the problem is, we, as a part of the tradition, we have been mixing petrol and kerosene to drive our human body. The human body is amazingly built by God, and it kind of knows how to deal with the poison, but it also has its own limits. So what happens is, when we eat excess carbohydrates, especially coming from grains, which are not supposed to be consumed by humans, we develop diabetes, obesity, hypertension, heart disease, fatty liver, depression, uh, cancer at the end of the spectrum. So what are we doing as a population? We are respecting the tradition and giving away all our earned wealth and health in the hands of pharma and the doctors as a process. So let's talk about the good carbs. Nature again doesn't make anything without a reason. So good carbs can be fruits, which are seasonal and local, not the imported ones. It can be nuts, which also have certain percentage of carbs. It can be honey at times. Yeah. Jaggery and sugar certainly doesn't come into good carbs because it is processed through sugarcane. So how much sugarcane a person can have? If you give a sugarcane, raw sugarcane, the stick, how much can you eat? You can't eat much. Your teeth will start paining. So that's the limit. The nature has made it in a certain way. But we have processed it, made it into jaggery, made it into sugar, which is highly concentrated form of energy. Again, humans are not made to consume that. So when we have it continuously, constantly, we're going to have problem. Honey, again, honey is a concentrated form of energy, but it also has a lot of other benefits. But are we going to have like a glass of honey? We are not. Honey is again a part of prescription of medicine. So again, go back to the same thing. Dose makes the medicine. So if you're going to have more of honey because honey is healthy, is going to become poison for your body. So honey is supposed to be consumed in a certain way, in a certain portion. But again, if you're metabolically unhealthy, then all these things are eliminated from your diet till the time your metabolic health is basically optimal, and only then you should be basically focusing on eating these things or fruits or honey. Today's population, when I tell people not to eat certain things or to certain children not to eat something, people might assume that I am on the extreme side of being a carnivore. But what has Hippocrates taught us? What has Hippocrates taught us? Hippocrates has given a simple statement thousands of years back, hundreds of years back, whatever, whenever he was there, that ask the person who wants to heal, is he willing to leave everything that has made him sick? You know? So the entire idea of thinking about nutrition for my child is that you teach the child. See, you don't consider a child. You should also respect the smartness. They have inbuilt smartness. They have inbuilt intelligence. These children, though they are children, you can logically talk to them and make them understand what it is. So today, if you ask Raghuveer, he understands sugar is bad for him because I have been educating him. He's just 3.5, but he knows outside chocolates, no. Homemade chocolates, yes. Outside cakes, no. What cakes we make at home, he can have. So he has a clear understanding. So if anyone offers him a chocolate or a cake outside, he doesn't eat it. Not out of not out of fear, but out of knowledge. See, children can say no out of fear and then look at the parents or look at the elder present over there, but they want to have it. Here, the difference is out of knowledge. He's convinced about it. He says, no, I don't want it, you know. And of course, then there's a lot of planning which goes around it. You have to continuously be with your child to educate your child. So for that, I have given up a lot of my own things, and I have become a full-time dad. So I call myself a full-time dad and a part-time functional medicine practitioner. So my majority, 80% of my work, even uh, I focus on planning his meals. I cook his meals. I take him out, the physical activity, introduction to different things, introduction to different sensory environments, sensory activities. So 80% of my time goes into this. 20% of my time goes into my practice. So I'm not really bothered about how much my practice grows, because if I start thinking about how much my practice goes, then my 80% of time will go into planning for my practice and growth. But I have just changed my state of mind, and my priority is basically my child and his growth and his personality development. That is what basically I focus on.
That's amazing. And of course, these are some really crucial years that unfortunately a lot of parents don't get to be as involved in. Of course, they have their own limitations, they have like financial responsibilities and many other things. But I'm sure that being like thinking this process through and going with it, I think they can also definitely start including some of these things, right? And also, when it comes to kids nutrition in India, it's very tricky because traditionally, and when in fact, if you're still in a joint family, it's so tricky because they say, like, in Hindi ki बढ़ती उम्र है अच्छे से खिलाओ, and that अच्छे से खिलाओ, that eating in a way that in your growth years the concept is very different. In fact, even if you, like you rightly said, when we see a chubby kid, that's a sign of good health for a lot of people, and which is kind of wrongly perceived. But when it also comes to a skinny kid, if the parent wants the child to gain some weight, the way that they go about it is like just put in a lot of carbs and like feed them potatoes, feed them dairy, and like all of these things. Like the approach is not very planned, and it's very traditional in a way that it needs to be updated. So very rightly said about that as well. Thank you for sharing that with us. And of course, like you have already told us that you have deviated from the traditional practices, but what are some big no's for you when it comes to what you've seen around, or probably even something that you might have grown up with as a child, or the traditional ways? What are some big no's for you when it comes to Raghuveer's upbringing in terms of
Yeah,
his
so
health and
big
wellness?
no's, same things that basically I tell my clients or anyone who starts a program with me is number one thing, stop eating anything made or produced from wheat. So today's wheat is a very different wheat, which used to exist 60 years back. It's a hybridized wheat. Uh, so it has got higher gluten content. So it's not just because of the gluten, but there are so many other things. So a big no is anything that comes from out of wheat. So any traditional foods made from wheat, that is, for example, puran poli. Puran poli for a Maharashtrian with toop, ghee is like divine. I mean, but I mean, unfortunately, it's made from wheat, and Raghuveer has never had Puran Poli till date, and in fact, we've not had for since last 10 years. I don't know if my mom and sister have like had it sometimes, but 99% of the times, no. I mean, for me, it's never nothing to do with wheat. So I have not had any wheat products since last 10, 12 years. Second thing is nothing made from vegetable oils. So a big no is basically never cook your food in vegetable oils or eat food cooked in vegetable oils. So for Raghuveer, if we are traveling outside and if we are eating food outside, we ensure that we go to places which cook food in at least olive oil or butter or ghee. We don't offer, we, if they are not serving food made in olive oil, butter, or ghee, then we don't go to that place. If you're going to our friends or relatives' place, we ensure that we tell them, listen, try and change that oil that you're using. So a lot of times, relatives and friends, they do oblige that, and no one really says no to using ghee. Uh, we also travel with our own ghee when we are traveling. So if we are traveling anywhere, and if someone else is going to cook food for us, or if we're going to go to a small restaurant or something, we offer them the ghee that we are carrying or the oil that we carry. Say, listen, use this oil for cooking food for us. So we ensure that we don't eat anything made in vegetable oils, because that's highly inflammatory. We know that. And there is no reason that anyone on this planet should be consuming anything made in vegetable oils. So these two are definitely a no. Third is anything that is packaged. So we don't eat anything which comes in these packages. No potatoes, so no wafers, chips, and etc. Though I give sometimes Raghuveer those banana chips fried in coconut oil. Okay, so those you usually get in Kerala stores or Mangalore stores. We definitely never have given him sugar, so no sugar. Again, no commercial cakes. So because those cakes are made from maida, not even gluten-free cakes, because gluten-free cakes or gluten-free products in the market are the biggest scam. They again are full of other stuff, which basically, if you read the ingredients, it's really, really bad. So nothing from the market that we give him. No soft drinks, definitely. No juices, no commercial juices. And we also never give him a juice made out of food other than pomegranate. So pomegranate is the only fruit that we offer him in a juice form because I don't want him to eat the seeds. So if he's eating any fruit which is seasonal and local, we always ensure that the seeds are removed and the seeds don't go into his digestive tract. In fact, once he had, what had he had? What are those called? I'll come back to that later. Some seeds he had eaten. But the seeds normally just come out undigested, so we can, I think they were plums, small plums. Yeah. Uh, so these are the definite no's, wheat, sugar, vegetable oil, processed food, packaged food, any cakes outside. So birthday parties, all birthday parties are planned. We take our own cakes to birthday parties. So there will be two cakes. So one cake is for all the other kids, and one cake we take our cake with us, and we make the birthday kid cut that cake also, and from that Raghuveer gets a kid. But now he understands. So and even the people understand who are from our usual circle, and they never offer Raghuveer the wrong food. So he's never had any candies. Okay, so yeah, I mean no traditional stuff made out of wheat. He might experiment. We might give him some rice or some bajra or some jawar at times. So at times he'll get it as a treat, But wheat is definitely a no. Yeah.
Understood. And also coming to introducing new foods to a child, like you said that you also had that in your plan, that how would you go about introducing new foods, and it's kind of tricky because of course I'm no expert, I'm no parent, I don't have like any experience in that, but I've always seen parents talk about how difficult it is to introduce new foods to their kids, and the multiple ways that experiment with just vegetables or just anything, like in multiple forms, and then introduce it to their child. How have you gone about it, and how has it been for Raghuveer? Like, was it easy, or did you have to be acquainted to some tricks and tips with your child?
Yes, this is a very good question. And there's so many thoughts which come in my mind. But there are two things what you can do to understand from this. What are the takeaways from this question? Is one is that you want to feed vegetables and the dal or introduce new things. Question is, does the child want to have it? So the child will say, ki, oh, the child will first taste and may like it, may not like it, and basically won't have it. But for you, you are very convinced in your mind as a parent, oh, this vegetable is very healthy. My child has to eat this vegetable. So now the mind will start working कि अभी इसको मैं इसके पेट के अंदर कैसे डालूं ये let's take example cabbage. You think cabbage is very healthy. The kid did not like the way you cooked the cabbage vegetable for him. Then you'll try a broth with mixed vegetables with cabbage inside it. कोई न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट बोला किधर तो आर्टिकल में पढ़ा कि कैबेज डालेगा तो इसको ये ऐसा ग्रोथ होगा, द चाइल्ड विल बिकम इंटेलिजेंट एंड स्मार्ट एंड ये प्रॉब्लम होगा तो निकल जाएगा. But the cabbage, so you want to feed that cabbage. I'm just giving an example. It can be n number of vegetables or some other things. तो द पेरेंट विल स्टार्ट थिंकिंग अभी इसको ये खिलाओ कैसे, इसके पेट के अंदर डालू कैसे, ये इसके हेल्थ के लिए बहुत अच्छा है. So now you will find all different tricks. And the simplest trick what a cook or a parent can utilizes is basically they add sugar to it. They make it sweeter. So what is the sugar that we add for cooking? Jaggery. So a lot of times you will make it sweet and you will push it in that vegetable and make the child eat it. So child will eat it for the sweetness sometimes, if the child likes to eat sweet, and dump it, dump it, dump it. But what will happen? Over a period of time, that child will start liking not the vegetable, but the sweetness in the cooked vegetable or that cooked food, dal, whatever you're talking about. Or you want to mix rice with some vegetable and then add sugar to it, some ghee. So I remember as a child, my favorite food used to be chapati with ghee and some jaggery in it. I, I, so
Gurudok
I
Chapati.
used to love it, but then as a child, what your mind is working, that chapati has to be dipped in that ghee and jaggery, and then you eat it, eat it, eat it. And if jaggery is not present, you put sugar in it. So you are basically filling yourself up because your brain, that time, the reward center in your brain is saying, wow, sugar is coming. Come on, let it come more. Let push in more, push in more, push in more. It's not that you want to eat it. Your brain, which has got a very, what do you say, deep rooted survival mechanism, is asking for more and more sugar because sugar is ultimately will be stored as fat in the body. And evolution, what is evolution or these millions of years taught your brain? The brain says, hey, listen, famine is coming because as we were basically evolving and trying to survive through those caveman years, food was not always available. So our brain learned that whenever food is there, eat it, use it, and whenever sugar comes as a source of fuel, eat it and store it as fat because fat is the reserve fuel that you need when these long patches of no food used to come to the caveman. So the brain knows that. So now there is ample sugar available in the market and traditionally, so we end up eating more and more stuff which is basically subconsciously because the brain is trying to ask more for it. The brain doesn't let you stop eating it because now after over a period of time you also have failed to recognize the signals from leptin because leptin is another hormone which basically keeps you to stop eating, but your brain overrides it and it wants to have sugar because that's easy form of energy. So as a child I have done that mistake. As parents, coming back to your questions, parents are doing the same mistake. And what are the processed foods? So parent will say Bournvita, for example, it's the hot topic, Bournvita. What are all these energy drinks that the children have? वो health के नाम के ऊपर, they are not mixing vitamins with sugar. They are mixing sugar and they are sprinkling some vitamins on top of that are synthetic, and they are coloring it with cocoa, and then they are selling these energy drinks as multivitamin, immune, healthy drinks, etc., etc. Bournvita, Complan, Boost, uh, Pediasure.
True.
There's so many of yeah. So this
Horlicks.
so as a parent, you are just taking decisions to mix sugar in food, make it a little more tasty, and give it to your kid, thinking, assuming that these vegetables are going to help your kid. You're giving the energy drinks, which are basically nothing but sugar, to your kids, thinking that it's going to help the kid grow faster, whatever, because on that box or that dabba, there, there are some figures of vitamins and essential micronutrients written. And so this is one way of pushing extra garbage in your child's mouth by making it tastier. But child is not going to, if you ask the child is like, I don't want to eat it. Okay. And a lot of times, what the parents do a mistake is that why they find it tricky to change the food is because they never offer food when the child is hungry. They are overfeeding their child continuously. So what happens is, सुबह सुबह चलो 7 बज गया, जाने का टाइम हो गया, स्कूल जाने का टाइम हो गया, 8 बजे का बस है, तो half an hour went in basically getting the child ready and etc. etc. अभी 15 मिनट बाकी है. By that time that नाश्ता is ready. The mother is like all stressed. अरे इसको कुछ खिलाने का है जाने के पहले. Empty stomach कैसे भेजूं इसको स्कूल में? क्योंकि फास्टिंग ये कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है, हंगर ये कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है कि the child should be eating when the child is hungry. And if the child is not hungry, don't push the food inside the child. So at times, Raghuveer doesn't eat till 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's a good 14 to 16 hour fasting. If he's not interested in food, Only then, and if I want to feed him, only then it becomes tricky. And if my child is not interested in
Right.
food, that means there is absence of hunger, absence of need in the body for nutrition. So why to push? Involve the child in something else. But the parents are stressed. By 8 बजे का बस है, अभी जाने के लिए 10 मिनट बाकी है, तो अभी जल्दी जल्दी क्या डालने का मुंह के अंदर? क्योंकि बैठ के नाश्ता तो नहीं करेगा, पोहा तो नहीं खाएगा, उपमा तो नहीं खाएगा. चलो एनर्जी ड्रिंक बनाओ, दूध ले लो, उसमें 2-3 चम्मच बूस्ट डालो, सब शुगर होता है उसके अंदर. मिक्स करो. अभी मीठा है तो द किड ऑल्सो डजंट थिंक दैट whether the kid wants to have it. Mom is screaming and she's like, बस आ रही है, चल फटाफट खत्म कर. वो बेचारा एक ग्लास पी लेता है. But over a period of time, what happens to this child? The child goes into a hyper and hypoglycemic cycle. Eventually, his system breaks down. He becomes metabolically dysfunctional, and then you have a chubby child, a hyperactive child. So eventually, what happens? You have a chubby
Yes.
child. You have a hyperactive child. You have a child which doesn't focus during the school time. Then this can create a new rabbit hole of going to a psychologist or counselors कि मेरा बच्चा ध्यान देता नहीं है, मेरा बच्चा सही टाइम पे खाना खाता नहीं है, न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट विल कम इन पिक्चर, हु विल अगेन प्रिस्क्राइब सम 8 मील्स, मेरा बच्चा कंसंट्रेट नहीं कर पाता है. Then more classes will start. So so many different rabbit holes start. You for a parent without realizing that one mistake that you're doing in the morning, force feeding and trying to find that trick to feed your child. You have to find a trick to feed your child because the child is not hungry. Any child who's hungry, if you offer some good fat and proteins, the child is going to basically eat. Can you hear me? So the child is not going
Yeah,
to
yeah, I
think
can hear you.
much. 80% of the time, the child will eat it. Okay, you only have to find tricks or prepare a food in a certain way when you force feed always. Let the child play. What children nowadays are doing is they are not playing enough. And because they are not physically playing enough, they don't get hungry. And even if they get hungry and they come home, Mom, I'm really hungry, give me food. We end up giving the wrong food that time. What is the wrong food that is available in the market today? Pizza, burger, that 10 rupees ka processed packet of wafers or some chips or some lays or some whatever. I mean, there's biscuits. So we end up feeding wrong food even when the child is hungry, when the child is supposed to eat the right food. So for my 3.5-year-old child, Raghuveer, like today morning, I'll give an example, today morning's example. We went for a beach morning. So we went to Juhu Beach today morning. He woke up at about 7:30, 8 o'clock. We were at the beach. We didn't give him anything because he never asked for any food. So we went out on the beach. We were playing, and he knows that I'm carrying some almonds and cheese with me. So after some time, he's like, Baba, I'm hungry, give me some almonds. You won't believe he had like some 5 or 6 almonds, and he's like, I'm done, I don't want. I did not ask him that, no, you have to
Wow.
finish this remaining almonds, otherwise. So I didn't put any conditions. I just told him, listen, you had 5, 6 almonds, now try the cheese also a little bit. So he ate the cheese, he didn't like it. And I did a mistake of forcing him to eat the cheese. And later he spat it out. I tasted it. It was really bad. So it was bad quality cheese. So, so the children know
Wow.
it. Their instincts are much stronger. You just got to respect what the child wants. And whenever the hunger is present, the hunger window, parents don't respect the hunger window. Parents don't allow their children to get hungry enough. And when they get hungry, that's the right window to offer the food that you assume is healthy. Okay? The child may eat it or may not eat it because a cabbage or something else like coming through vegetables is not the ideal source of nutrition. What you should be offering is
But
at least some eggs and cheese and butter, a basic nutrition or something else with some quality
right.
proteins, coming from dairy for vegetarians. Someone who's people who come from non-veg eating families, I mean, they have a huge plateau of food to offer: eggs, fish, some good organic chicken, which is free range, pork, and red meat, depending on what kind of red meat we all eat. So Raghuveer, when he gets hungry, usually, and we follow his instincts. So sometime back you spoke about instincts. A child is born with instincts, but with the education system, we kill the instinct. Okay, so education system is another topic. Let's not go into that. But education system is designed in such a way which basically kills the intuition of a child, and our traditions are also basically responsible to a certain extent to kill the instincts of a child. And when we don't respect the instincts of a child, that's where we go wrong. So what my learnings are in the last 3.5 years, that I've learned to respect my child's instincts. So I respect his instincts more than my instincts. So sometimes Raghuveer will eat eggs continuously for 10 days. He'll have eggs in his breakfast, eggs for lunch, eggs for dinner. He'll ask it. He'll ask for it. He will say no to pork. He'll say no to mutton, that's red meat. He will say no to everything else. He'll keep asking for eggs, eggs, eggs. So it's fine if he's asking eggs. I'm happy he's eating eggs, and then sometimes eggs with cheese. So we cook our food in coconut oil or butter or ghee. So he gets the fat from there. So fair enough as far as the nutrition is going inside. Then suddenly after 10 days, he'll be like, no, I don't want eggs anymore. I just want pork. So he'll be on a spree of eating pork for 10 days. Then he'll go off pork. Then he'll start eating paneer. So he has these cycles. But if he is he asking a different protein in every meal? No, he's not. Okay. But sometimes he wants to have a fruit. I respect that. Okay. But I'll give him an option. Say, okay, listen, you are not going to get just any fruit that you demand. I say, okay, these are the options available. This is the fruit you can have. This is the fruit you can't have. Like, I don't offer him grapes. I don't offer him watermelon. I don't offer him pineapple. We don't eat imported fruits, you know. So we don't eat lychees. So I tell him, okay, all these fruits, pineapple, watermelon, lychees, grapes, they all have a very high content of fertilizers and pesticides because they are water holding fruits, and the way they are grown, even the usual bananas, I don't give him the usual bananas. I give him the organic small the elaichi bananas. So, and I explained to him why I don't give him to that. So he understands that. So he might throw a tantrum 1 or 2 times, but if you make him understand like an adult and talk to him in a very sensible, logical way, he understands that and doesn't he stops throwing the tantrums. And next time he will tell me why you should not eat this. Baba, don't eat grapes because it has got all those pesticides, it is high in sugar. He'll tell me next time. So it's the concept in the mind is very clear, and children are intelligent enough to handle knowledge. A lot of times parents underestimate their children and they don't educate them enough. And also respect the
True.
instincts of the child. So recognize the instinct of the child and go with the flow. Also wait for the hunger and respect the window of hunger and try and introduce the good foods that are bioavailable for humans, like fat and protein coming from animal source. You know, for vegetarians, it's mainly dairy, animal source, some nuts, seasonal fruits. And for non-vegetarians, there is a huge plateau of animal source fat and protein, which they can offer a lot of nuts and seasonal fruits. It's very simple. Yeah, just stay away from grains as a what do you say? Your meals should not comprise majority of grains. They should contain majority of proteins. Grains can be a small part, definitely not wheat. You can always feed a little bit of rice or a little bit of bajra or jawar if you want to feed your child. There's no harm in it, but little bit. That should not be the main component of your meal. You know, there are few basics if you follow, you'll always have a healthy child. Make sure that you're giving good fats to the child because for the brain development, you need to feed them a good balanced EPA and DHA, mainly DHA kind of fat. Yeah.
Amazing. That was a beautiful segment, and there are two major highlights from this. Is one of the things is that how we are, limiting the palate of children today by, like you said, if they are not choosing a particular food, by adding sugar or sweetness to it and make it more palatable for them. But in the end, when they grow up, they do have a very limited palate, and like that's when children are not eating certain really actually healthier foods which you want them to eat at that age, right, when they grow up. So that is one major thing, and the other one is like, wow, that's a big thing. Like even as a me as a child, I would resonate with this, is that eating when they're not hungry and pushing force feeding them when they're not hungry, because that's so true. Like like घर से निकलने के
Yeah,
पहले eat something. Like that's a major rule, and not following your biological clock, like which your body tells you intuitively, and going with the clock outside your body. It's breakfast time, it's lunch time, it's snack time, and you have to have these many meals. And actually, a lot of parents are not allowing their child to feel hungry in order to eat food. It's like way before that. Acha, before he
yeah,
feels hungry, let
yeah.
me feed him. That's what is happening. Like usually, like feeding in every 2 hours, and that's amazingly put. And of course, children have this, innate decision making, and they have their choices, and they are very intuitive, like you said. But we do tend to, put them down and tell them that this is right, this is not right. So that's how we are seeing it today, and that's amazing insight right now. And also, one more thing I wanted to touch on is that, of course, your ways of the lifestyle you're introducing to Raghuveer, or the food that you're introducing to him, is way different than many people, many parents out there. And he's just 3.5 years old right now. But of course, when he grows, he's going to have a lot of friends, and there'll be so much peer pressure that might come in. And I'm sure even right now, he might see his friends eating in a very different way, or a very different lifestyle. And children do observe that. How do you sort of deal with this? And does he find it difficult at times to separate these two things, or is he really strong on his beliefs that
Whatever you told me just
growing
now,
as a
it's
family
all in the
together?
mind. And it's all in the mind of you and me and the parents. Like, oh, my child is facing difficulties when he is socializing. Oh, my child might have problems when he grows up and he starts socializing. Oh, my child, how will he deal with these situations? It's all made up. It's all made up in our mind. It's a story that we are making in our mind. Those are our fears in our mind, that how is my child going to face the world. Trust is a major thing that is missing in today's world. Trust your own parenting. Okay. And the main problem here is that parents don't spend enough time with their children. What I see is the children spend more time with uh, in the school. So where is the bonding? Just because you're the parent, why would the child listen to you? If the child is going to spend more time with his friends, his or her friends, school, the teachers, then the child spends more time in front of the screens. Yeah. So the child is present in your life, but what as a parent have you done to create the bond between you and the child? What have you done to have the rapport between you and the child? Is being a parent enough? Is providing everything to your child enough? Or do you have to do that, go that extra step and spend a lot of time with your child and create a bond, create a rapport with your child, understand your child's mentality, that what works, what words work for your child, what words don't work, which way you should handle your child. Are these things important or not for a parent? So when you remove all these things, when you remove the rapport, the bonding, understanding your child, being with your child, spending time with your child, when you remove all these things, that's when subconsciously you know you don't know your child enough. And then you create these situations in your mind. Now, this is the situation where my child will go. This is the situation where my child will go. And what if the child is he gets under pressure and eats the wrong food? So, do you believe that your child is so weak? And mistakes can happen anywhere, anytime, and you should be ready for those accidents. So I call those accidents. I mean, Tomorrow, if my Raghuveer is going to go and socialize with his friends, I know he's going to experiment. But I also trust my upbringing because I'm creating a foundation which is so clear that he already knows what is right and wrong. Imagine in another 3 years where he will be. Will he have a weaker understanding about nutrition in another 3 years or a stronger understanding about nutrition? What do you say? He's 3.5, so by the time he's six
Stronger,
and a half,
definitely.
he will have much more stronger understanding about nutrition. So I don't have any doubts in my upbringing. And who are the biggest role models over here for your child? Parents, family. So I am his role model. His mom is his role model. His grandmother, his family is his role model. So as a family, we don't eat all the rubbish and crap at home. So he watches us, he observes us, what we are eating, what my baba is eating, what my ai is eating, what my grandma, what my attu is eating. He watches that. He asks me questions even today that when we go out, why is that person eating that? I say that person doesn't understand enough that that product has sugar and that is basically going to make that person sick some point of time in life. So he asks questions and I appreciate his questions that time. So every time he asks a question, I appreciate that. I say, wow, Raghuveer, what a good question. And the greatest ability of Raghuveer today is that he has a question for everything and he will ask a question. He will repeat the question 10 times till he understands that answer or he by hearts it. I understand my kid really well because I spend time with him. I understand, I know the tricks to use to convince him to eat certain food. So you will know the tricks or the words or the ways to use things, do things or say things only if you spend time with your child. What happens with the parents is that both the parents leave for work in the morning, they come back in the evening, or one parent stays at home, the other parent goes to work and come back in the evening, and they expect the child to listen to them. There's no bonding, there's no rapport. So what happens is you give gifts to create the bonding and the connection. So gifts and toys are used to basically create the bonding and connection. You give, it's like bribing. So what are we using nowadays? Oh, Cadbury de do sir.
True.
Chocolate de do. So we are bribing our kids to listen to us. To create the rapport, what happens is we are creating these different things. Usko ye toy de do, usko bribe de do. Let him watch the mobile. Let him. So mobile phone also is used by parents to create time for themselves. अरे इसको खाना खिलाना है. So one of the tricks what parents use is, yes, let me get back to the earlier questions. One of the tricks that the parents use to feed, force feed, is also keep a mobile in front of the child. So I often see parents feeding their children. हाँ उसका favorite cartoon लगा दो या गाना लगा दो या program लगा दो. He will keep watching that program. So the programs are made to put the child in a hypnotic state. So the child goes into a hypnotic state looking at the cartoon or the favorite program. So now he's just eating like a machine without even thinking about the taste, the flavor, the fragrance of the food. So out of the five senses that we are supposed to use to eat food, the taste, the fragrance, you know, the leptin when it comes in to say stop. So these children who are watching the mobile phone and eating often overeat. They don't chew enough. They just gulp the food. So digestion becomes a problem. Absorption becomes a problem. Obesity becomes a problem. So even if you feed the right food, let's say some parent is trying to feed fat and proteins, good food, but the child is watching mobile phone. Is that a correct way? No, it is not a correct way. Okay, maybe 50% the nutrition will go, but still the child is not connected with the food. So one of the important things for parents to understand is
True.
get rid of the gadgets while eating. Shut the TV off while eating. So with Raghuveer, we have one rule that we don't show him any mobile phones, no videos, we don't show him any cartoons. It's only half an hour that he gets to see some cartoons, and even that cartoon is basically I select the cartoon for him. It's a different topic. Cartoons are also designed to basically influence children. So I ensure that certain cartoons, what he watches, I understand the script, I understand the words that are used in those cartoons. See, I'm a full-time dad, right? So I invest time in understanding these things. And if I find any cartoons promoting wrong foods, wrong language, wrong advertisements behind the characters, I change that. Okay. So we never feed him in front of a mobile phone. We ourselves also have to follow the same rules because we are the role models. So if we are eating food, we don't look at the mobile phones and we don't watch
True.
TV at that time because he can ask after some time he'll start asking questions. Hey, you can eat food while watching TV, then why can't I? Because he already has started asking questions. So we ensure that we don't do the same mistakes and we be the right role models as far as he is concerned. So tricks can be used in the wrong way. So don't use mobile phones, you know. So yeah,
Amazing. That was very insightful. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so we did discuss about nutrition in a lot of detail, right? And also in terms of lifestyle, the environment, being the right role models. What is your approach in terms of movement? Because that's one of the major thing that lacks today in many Indian households is to, as a family together, include the habit of movement or include the importance of movement. Because a lot of us haven't even seen our parents move as a child. Most of the time, I'm not generalizing it, but what we see is that our elders move, they walk or they exercise only when they are diagnosed with like diabetes. When the doctor says like you have to go on a walk now, you have to go to the gym now. So, that's what is happening for a lot of time. And of course, now there are many conscious parents like you and many active people and who are including these things in their lifestyle in their family together. Right. So, how are you approaching this, and what are some things that you want Raghuveer to understand about movement and
I'm very
to
glad you asked
consciously
this
start
question
living that
because
kind of lifestyle?
when the topic is of kids nutrition, the topic of movement never comes up. So it's a very important question as far as understanding kids' health is concerned because nutrition is one aspect, movement is another aspect. So when Raghuveer was 18 months, I installed a climbing wall in my house. So you can think about if I was thinking about nutrition when my wife conceived, I was also thinking about movement. Okay, so it's not just nutrition. I was already thinking of imagining, dreaming that Raghuveer will be climbing mountains. Yes, to the
Hmm.
in the core of my heart, I love mountains. I love to climb. I've recently started going out for hikes and treks. So I wanted somewhere, every parent wants their child to do something what they couldn't do. And this is one thing that I always wanted. But what we can do as parents is we can provide the environment to grow and to move. Now it all depends on the child, what he picks and what he loves. And then provide that environment again to let the child grow in that particular choice that the child has made. Okay. So as a parent, yes, I would love if Raghuveer becomes a mountaineer. I am not really interested in making him a doctor or engineer. Okay. Or a computer engineer or a artificial intelligence software engineer. That's like the last thing in my head that he wants to pick. But if he picks it tomorrow, I'm happy. Yeah. I'll definitely make him a doctor, but expand him to a functional medicine practitioner. Okay, and probably he'll be one of those standing out of the crowd. So I'm not really bothered about him. I'm also okay if he tomorrow becomes a scuba diving instructor. I'm also okay with that. As far as the entire idea or thinking about it is, as far as he is happy with his life, and in his life, he should be connected with nature and movement. And all he should be focused on spreading is basically spreading the right knowledge. And I'm happy with that. So I don't have expectations like all the other parents. But yes, a lot of parents, most of the parents have a lot of expectations for their children. And that's where the competitive journey begins, the schooling system begins, etc., etc. But my main intention for Raghuveer's foundation, and one of the keys of foundation other than nutrition is movement. So at the age of 18 months, when Raghuveer was just 18 months,
True.
I installed a wall in my house. I sourced those holds, which are mountaineering holds, and he's been climbing since he was 18 months. So today he climbs that wall like a chameleon or whatever mountaineer. So he's very comfortable climbing up. He loves to jump. Uh, Raghuveer cycles at the age of 3.5 like any pro. Okay, he has fallen hundreds of times, but we bought him a cycle about when he was 2 years old. Of course, I still haven't removed the extra wheels that the cycle comes with. But if you ask him at 1 a.m. in the night when he's sleeping deep in his sleep, Raghu, let's go for cycling. He will wake up and he'll come for cycling. He loves cycling so much. Okay, so he has been cycling from the age of 2, and he is famous in our complex uh, for Raghuveer. If he is absent, if the cycle is absent, people will ask him, "अरे Raghuveer, तेरा cycle कहाँ है आज?" So he is always seen on his cycle in the building. He is never seen walking or sitting in one place. He's so active. So as far as movement is concerned, these are the things that basically I have introduced initially. About 8 months back, he has also started doing gymnastics. So from the time, so see, these are my thoughts. I
Wow.
have been planning to put him for Malkham or gymnastics since he was 2 years, and finally 8 months back he was prepared. So you have to patiently wait for the child to show some interest and be physically prepared to go to such activities. So for six months, I took him to the gymnastics
True.
class in the parents' class where I would stay with him till he finished the class. So 6 months, one parent has to invest time with the child for the child to get comfortable in a certain environment. So you have to put in that effort. So as a full-time dad, I have taken my decisions. In my mind, it's clear that I will shut my phone off. I will shut everything off and just focus on his development. So for 6 months, I invested time in being with him in that class, letting him enjoy the class. So key is to basically let the child enjoy, not force. There is no force in making the child do the gymnastics. So now today, after 6 months, when I enrolled him for the next batch, I'm so happy that he tells me, Baba, you go away now. Moment he goes in the class, he doesn't even turn and look back at me. Now he enjoys the class. So he's doing gymnastics now. About 2 years
Amazing.
back, at the same time, I also started taking him in the pool. Now we missed the window of we actually wanted a water baby. So the delivery was supposed to happen in the water, but that did not work out during the delivery.
Ah.
Luckily, we had a normal delivery. Post delivery, also we wanted to take him into indoor pools immediately after delivery. So you know, babies are natural swimmers, but unfortunately, after Raghuveer was born, we missed the window of the indoor pool swimming because lockdowns started that time. So by the time everything opened, Raghuveer was 2 years. So what I did was, as a part of our daily activity rituals, we have these activity rituals every day: cycling, running, climbing. I started introducing water to him. So I started taking him in the water. So I was not a swimmer 2 years back, but because of Raghuveer, I learned swimming, and now Raghuveer enjoys
That's
being in the
beautiful.
water. So it has taken us nearly 2 years to develop liking for water. And just like gymnastics, from next year, I will put him in swimming classes. So for 2 years, I have not focused on him learning swimming. All I have focused is on him enjoying water. So the message for parents is that don't force your kids, just like don't
Hmm.
force feed your kids, wait for hunger. Any activity, if you want your kid to master the activity, first let the kid enjoy the environment and the activity, and then focus on mastering the activity. So all these things are very patiently in the mind. Of course, sometimes you lose your temper or patience, but the patience is the key. You just have to wait back, observe as a coach, as a parent, let the child enjoy in that environment, like the swimming or the gymnastics or the cycle. You have to really put in a lot of hours behind each activity for the child to develop the likeness for that particular activity. So today we do home circuits at home. So fortunately, I have a background in health and fitness and whatever boxing myself. So I make him box. We do home circuits. He climbs walls in the house because I have a climbing wall at home. We do swimming regularly. We do cycling regularly. We do gymnastics regularly. So my priorities for Raghuveer is not reading. My priority for Raghuveer right now is movement and learning through movement. So, like today morning, we went on the out on the beach. So, sun is more important for Raghuveer. So, getting out in the sun is more important. So, this is so movement, involving your child's in movement. The investment of movement is equally important to the food and nutrition. Yeah. So, this is what my thoughts are on movement. Yeah.
That's beautiful, and it's amazing to see you do all these things with Raghuveer. And because that's the important thing, right? Like we need to like our children need to love movement, like not having to do it, but that they get to do it and they have the privilege of doing it. And this is what lacks, like usually even if you go to a normal school and there's this PE exam annually, right? And then you have to do like these 5 to 6 things, like you have to do crunches and then push-ups and then run a race and all of that, and that sort of like limits a person's love for movement that is there in us, naturally. And that was for me also personally, because I had to do all of those things. I was never into sports, but then if only we all could start creating this
Yeah.
environment for the children, that they create a love for movement naturally, and then they would not have to face these situations as an adult, that they have to go to a trainer or they have to do this because they are obese, or these kind of things. So it's really beautiful that you are doing this, and thank you for sharing that with us. And one last thing I want to touch is, are there some things that have surprised you lately, in what Raghuveer has understood as a 3.5-year old? Of course, with your, education and with your upbringing. But has there something that he has understood at this age that really surprised you, and you
That
never
really
thought
cracks
that
me up
he would
because he
understand this
understands
much?
so many things, and he surprises us every day. So it's not just one thing that I can say, but there are so many things that he surprises, especially his questions, his energy, his way of showing affection, his naughtiness. Everything about him is another level. If you ask this to any parent, all parents are going to answer you the same thing. For every child, for every parent, their child is the best and the cutest. So I'm not going to say anything different, but uh, so because if I say something that way, then I'll sound biased, and I don't want to sound biased. But yeah, there was something that he said yesterday. So sometimes I scold him. Not sometimes, I scold him a lot of times. I talk to him like an adult. So I'll argue with him like an adult, and I'll speak to him. I'll get irritated with him. So because I spend a lot of time with him. Okay. So out of those so many hours that I spend with him, there will be times when I lose it because he's got so much energy and he's got so much musty. So I lose it. I'll argue with him and I'll scold him. Sometimes I'll give him one nice whack also. And a lot of parents in today's schooling system, oh, giving a whack is not the correct thing of upbringing. Boss, if you're some there's There's some things in life when we have grown up, when a certain generation has grown up, if their parents have not hit the child knows that boss दे बच्चे को मारना ही चाहिए था एक फटका. So sometimes that one fatka is essential in a certain way. You don't hate in certain way, but sometimes I do that. So I was taking him to one of his classes, and so he was angry with me. I said, Baba, I'm angry with you. I said, okay, fine. So now what? So I was trying to change his mood and everything. So I told him, listen, I scold you. I sometimes give you one whack, but there is a reason for that because you should not do a larger damage that will hurt you. So if you're doing musti, which that musti, if it is going to hurt you back, okay, and if it's going to injure you, let's say you're going to jump from, if you want to jump from 10 feet, you jump once, you don't get hurt, but second time, if you go and try and jump there from there, because you're fearless, but I know that's going to injure you, I'll explain to you once nicely, twice, but third time, if you don't listen and do that same musti, which is going to give you or make you injured, I'm going to give you that whack so that you understand that is dangerous. So when you have your wife and when you will have your child, when you grow up, I told him, I said, and if your child is doing musti, you will scold him and you will give him a whack. So he kept quiet for 5 seconds and he answered back. He's like, no, Baba, I'm not going to scold my child. I'm not going to beat or whack my child. And you also don't do that to me. So I was completely surprised with this kind of intelligence because he not only imagined in future tense that he will have a child, he not only told me that he won't do it, and he also had and connected that with me and told me you also don't do it. So he had that entire thing in his mind in that 5 seconds calculated and gave me a justifiable reason that I also should not be doing that. And he didn't listen to me or he didn't agree with me. He had his own way of thinking of how he is going to treat his child at the age of 3.5. And he justified it and convinced me not to scold him and whack him. So this is one of the things, conversation between his father and his son. And we have n number of conversations like this, and not just with me, with his grandmother, with his attu, and with his mom, and with our friends. At this age, he knows 4 languages: English, Gujarati, Hindi, Marathi. And for me,
Wow.
he should learn his mother tongue, master his mother tongue first. So I'm not really worried about what language he learns. Other language, I'm not really bothered about whether he learns English or not right now because English is like a really simple language you can learn anytime in life. So we all focus on teaching Marathi first. So if you speak to him in Marathi, his Marathi is way, way, way much better than a lot of other kids who only speak English, English, English. You know. So this is one of the things of upbringing that we are focusing on. And I'm going to just add another thing which I missed speaking about earlier about parenting, other parents, what parents do is parents should learn to say no to their own family. So when you spoke about joint family, this is one of the things. So I have one family here in our building. They don't follow any particular diet, but they have one simple rule that they follow is without the permission of the mother and the father, the remaining family does not offer anything to the children. No food, no toys, nothing. So everything goes through one channel. So if the grandfather and the grandmother want to treat something or buy something for the kids, they will first check with their own son and daughter-in-law, okay, the parents of the children. If they say yes to a particular thing, only then the children are offered certain things. So these are the basic family rules that every parent should follow. That any decision that has to be taken for the child, there is nothing to be emotional about it. Oh, how can I say no to my father or my grandmother or my relative or my friends. There's nothing bad or wrong over here. The parents are the ones who are in charge of their child, and they should be the ones who should be taking decisions. So the family, the friends, the grandfather, the grandmother, there is no harm. Just tell them, listen, whatever we are going to feed our child, you want the best for our your granddaughter, grandson. We want the best for. So let it go through one channel. Don't confuse the child. Don't disrupt the health of the child, because it's important to understand what is the best for the child. And for that, every parent should learn to say no and convincingly say no without being offended, without offending anyone else, or without thinking, what if the other person feels bad? Let the other person feel bad. Okay, but they will learn something out of you saying no.
That's amazing. That's a really powerful message, and it's really beautiful looking at you and Raghuveer and this beautiful bond between you and also your entire family together, right? So that's really amazing, and I hope to keep looking and learning more from you. So thank you for being here today, and with that, we conclude our episode today. It was really insightful and something that is quite mind blowing for a lot of parents today. Even in fact, I'm going to go and show my parents this right away.
Most welcome. It was a pleasure talking to you, and it was nice to basically share whatever I have learned so far as a parent. I'm sure there are a lot of other things that we can learn from other parents as well. I'm not saying every parent is doing everything wrong. We all can learn from each other, but this is something what I have learned in my journey of life. It's something that I love to share, and would love all the parents to adapt the best practices. See, in corporate world also, we adapt the best practices. And this is one of the best practices we all can adapt and basically help who? Help our next generation. Yeah. So thank you so much for inviting me on your talk show. It was amazing being here.
Thank you so much. It was a very powerful conversation and it was very insightful. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have so many takeaways from this. So thank you. That's it for today. I'm Sakshi Pawar and I'll be your
Super.
host for the Settle or Be Better
Yeah.
podcast. So stay tuned while we bring more inspiring stories your way. You know the drill. Subscribe to the Settle or Be Better podcast, like, share, and comment on our videos. And oh, hit the bell icon because you don't want to miss the mind boggling health discussions we're about to bring for you. Why settle when you can be better?